All right. Hey guys, Crewman here. Sorry about today. I am an hour late. I know that that's not the best, but it is what it is. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I was playing some Warhammer 40,000 and and I misjudged how long games of that take. I haven't played in a long time. Better late than never, right? Um, so thank you guys for joining. I totally understand if that means I'm going to get a lot less viewers, but it's cool. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is season 1, episode 2 of Saturday Night Tech with Fruitman. And in today's Saturday night, we have a lot of. I think we have positive news. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a negative one. I definitely think I might also start at 11 o'clock instead of 10:30 in the future. I think I might try to make that a regular thing. I don't know. I'm going to kind of do a poll and see what everybody says. I'm pouring myself a drink. So in today's live stream, what we're talking about is upscaling software. I know a lot of people like upscaling and don't like upscaling. There are a lot of varying opinions on upscaling software. So I want to talk about it. One of the things I've really noticed as we've seen stuff like DLSS 4.5, XESS 3 with multi-frame generation pushed into the lower end cards, like basically DLSS 4.5 works on as low as a 2060. Now you're going to take a performance loss of about 10 to 15%. And depending on the GPU, like I think the lower end ones are worse off. I think the sweet spot is like the 2080 Ti, the 3080 Ti, stuff like that. I don't know if I'd go anything lower than maybe like a 3060, because like I said, you are going to take a hit. But I think the great thing about DLSS 4.5 is you have choices, and choices are a big deal. Like it's really, really important to have choice. You know what I mean? So one of the things that I like about XESS 3 is multi-frame generation too. Like I'm talking about DLSS, I'm talking about XESS. So like XESS 3 is important because you take like a $300 GPU or even like the B580, or you take the older Intel GPUs, and I'd like to do testing on older ones if I can get my hands on some, and you give them multi-frame generation, and it's a totally new ball game. Now look, multi-frame generation is not the be-all end-all. If you saw my video, it's definitely not perfect, right? But I think the important thing that we need to understand about multi-frame generation, right, is Intel's giving it to you on like a $300 card, like a B580, or like a $200 card, like the B570. So, which I will do multi-frame gen testing on this. So when you're giving somebody who is in the budget space something like multi-frame generation, it's a big deal, especially when you're like, so think about it, right? You're playing with an Intel GPU multi-frame gen on Cyberpunk, and maybe your system's valued, I don't know, maybe you're running like an AM4 system, and the whole system's valued at maybe like $500-600, right? When you're playing at $500-600, you don't expect to be able to play with path tracing on and get like 120 to 130 frames per second, which is what is possible. Or you get over 100 frames per second. Now, obviously, like I've already said, it's not perfect, but like it's opening up the door for some beautiful looking gameplay. And frankly, I would argue that 99.9% of people don't really even know the difference between having frame gen on or not. Now, obviously, if you know what you're doing, you can look into it. But it brings up the question, right? Should we be spending, $600-700 for a good GPU to play good looking AAA games, or do we just get a lower end GPU, right? Like are these GPUs, do their value proposition somehow go through the roof because of software? Now, the ray tracing cores on these things are no slouches. They're like Ampere ray tracing cores, which are not bad at all, but it opens up a whole new ball game. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I tend to think it's a good thing, right? But I totally admit that the fact that companies are pushing software for a lot of people, it brings a trend that people might not like, right? Like as soon as people get used to fake frames, then you're going to see people not maybe spending as much money on graphics cards. Maybe developers get lazier. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm saying this could happen, right? So, like, as someone who used to be very like native, where like I didn't care about multi-frame generation, I didn't care about XeSS, I didn't care about FSR, which I'm gonna get on soon, and I'm gonna scorch AMD for it, and I didn't care about DLSS. But after my meeting with NVIDIA at CES and really testing upscaling, I think especially in times like these where we have a shortage, I think and it seems to be like we have a shortage every other year. Some point in the year we have a shortage. So shortages are becoming a more regular thing. That multi-frame generation and things like DLSS upscaling are actually doing a very, very good job of opening up higher end PC gaming to people that would never have it. So like that's the positive side, right? But like the negative side is like if you're really into high-end gaming, right? Like I have a 5090, and even if I wasn't a tech tuber, I'm the kind of person that I would buy a 6090 when it came out because that's what I care to spend my money on. So when I see upscaling, at first I was like, ugh, it's just getting lazier and lazier. But like think about what multi-frame generation when Nvidia releases that for the 50 series, how awesome that's going to be. And think about ray reconstruction when they get it on DLSS 4.5. That's going to be amazing. And in order to get the advantages of ray reconstruction and really push in 4K, you're still going to need high-end hardware, right? Like you can only do so much with multi-frame generation. So it's just really interesting, right? Because like I think we're at a crossroads of like, everybody who's like pro native gaming and everybody who's pro DLSS. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think native gaming in a year is not going to be what you think it is anymore. Because like when you look at ray reconstruction versus like path tracing native, ray reconstruction literally looks better. I did a video on it. There's tons of content on it. You can see it. Like it is crazy. And wireless user, thank you for joining. Brings up a good point. He says, "Yeah, I've been wondering whether to turn on FMG, which is frame generation. I always like to optimize settings, and I still don't know whether I truly benefit, but I don't notice a difference when FPS counters are off." So it's a unique concept, right? So I would challenge everybody to try multi-frame generation and to try ray reconstruction and to turn your FPS counter off and see if you notice it or not. Now you can check it out. Like I did a video where I told people they need to turn their FPS counter off because I really believe that sometimes people hyperfixate on the FPS counter. And like I've been doing a lot of BC250 testing and I haven't put my FPS counter on. I played Arc Raiders on that thing for like 12 hours. And I obviously there were some issues, right? But like the BC250 is like a beyond cheap portable PC. So, I noticed it, but most of the time it did just fine. And I fought other people. I wasn't just like Care Bear rating. So I really believe that, and I know it's a touchy subject, but I think everybody kind of needs to have an open mind, right? Like, look, I'll call out poorly optimized games, right? And there are definitely going to be some. And I'm afraid personally because I used to be in the really pro native camp that I'm actually afraid that developers will get lazier. I'm afraid that we'll have more games launched like Borderlands and not Arc Raiders because like Arc Raiders was so perfect as far as technically the way it launched, and Borderlands was garbage. And I really, really hope that we end up with more games like Borderlands, or not like Borderlands, like Arc Raiders, and less like Borderlands. So the cynical part of me wants to say that, well, multi-frame gen is going to make gamer developers lazier, but part of me is like, no, maybe it won't, and maybe it'll be utilized properly to get cheaper hardware to run higher end titles, especially cheaper GPUs with good ray tracing cores, like the 30 series and Xia and like the Battle Mage. I think they are going to benefit the most from it. I do think it's interesting to note though that that Intel really kind of cracked the gate, like cracked the code on multi-frame gen, because AMD doesn't allow it on lower end GPUs, and neither does Nvidia. Um, Alito is saying it will make it easier to maximize monitor hertz without having to overthink anything. Just turn it on and go. Absolutely. Like, I think that's an important thing, and I think that's going to matter a lot for multiplayer games too. Like, I have a 144 hertz monitor in the studio, 4K monitor, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, my personal display only is 120 hertz. So I'm like poking around with the AIBs because like I don't do a ton of monitor testing, but I'm like poking around on the AIBs trying to get a good monitor sent to me because I'm like, man, I could really use like a 400 hertz 4K monitor to actually like take advantage of multi-frame gen with DLSS 4.5. So like that's something I'm thinking about. But even with like older monitor, like you could buy a 180 hertz 1440p monitor, right? And you could turn path tracing on, and you'll get close to maxing it with on like performance on the Arc B580, which is like a really big deal. And another thing I was just thinking about, right? And tell me what you guys think. I'm really interested to hear this. So I'm wondering if the advent of multi-frame generation for lower-end GPUs, FSR4 can be hacked into lower-end GPUs. I'm going to roast AMD. I'm getting to that. And DLSS 4.5 works on lower-end GPUs. Do you think that the upscaling software is lowering the demand for people to upgrade? Because, like, if I had a 2080 Ti right now and I saw the prices of everything they are now, I'd probably just wait. If I had a B580, I definitely wouldn't upgrade after multi-frame gen released. If I had like a 3060 12 gig, I I don't know. Like it's like I don't know. So it really does open the door to make me wonder, are these companies hurting themselves by making this lower end software working on lower end GPUs, legacy GPUs? And I'm really happy they're doing it, right? And I think it's a good look for Nvidia and Intel cuz like it doesn't cost them anything to do this, but AMD, AMD, why is it so hard to get multi-frame gen to work with FSR4 on legacy GPUs? Like AMD has such a low market share and bit themselves in the foot so many times this generation. They launched late. They they killed their driver support for RDNA 2. They brought it back, but they killed that. It's like, why are you doing that, AMD? Why are you doing that? Right? Like it's incredibly frustrating. And you have such low market share, you need everybody to like your products. So why would you make FSR4 so hard to get working? Like another example, you have the Linux lead. My only AMD daily driver is my Bazite PZ, right? You have the Linux lead. Why is it so hard to force FSR4 on Linux? Like why? Why? Why is it hard to run FSR4 on legacy GPUs when we know it can happen? It's incredibly frustrating, and I think it makes AMD look so bad. Catching up on the comments, um, Alito, I'm probably butchering your name. I'm sorry. He says the 5070 12 gig at 550 is starting to feel like the sweet spot, which is crazy to think 1 year ago when everybody hated the 5070. Yeah, and it's funny you say that, right? Because I will say this. A year ago, I hated all forms of upscaling, right? Like I hated all of it. So a year ago to me, my 5070 review was like, I hate this card, but you should probably buy it. And frankly, a 5070 at $550 is an incredible deal if you can still get it for that. This streaming PC has a 5070 paired with a 12900K, and I'm going to be doing some gaming content on it because I frankly think that that's while it's not like the newest system on the planet, I think that with FSR multi-frame gen, I think I'm going to be able to game at 4K, and this is connected to a 4K monitor, which is like it's an LG C5, so it's like my working monitor. So like I think it's a really good gaming PC, and I would not upgrade if this is what I had as my main rig. Wireless user 3133 says, I definitely don't see the need for these companies to bottleneck themselves and be less competitive. And I definitely agree that a 4070 and a 12900K runs very good. It runs incredibly good. And the crazy thing is, you could have gotten a 12900K at the end of last year for like $250 new. I bought mine for $250. I was like, damn. So like my streaming PC is like, the more I look at it, I'm like, man, I need to do more game testing on it. And it's just interesting, right? That like FSR 4, like it's not interesting, it's frustrating why FSR 4 isn't enabled. Why does AMD make us jump through all these hoops? I really think that we're going to look back and AMD is probably going to get their asses kicked this generation. Like, I know Intel didn't release any new hardware, but I'm interested to see, now that multi-frame gen's done so well, what the sales figures for the ARC B580s are going forward. And I'm going to try to do some research on that and see if things change going forward. Another thing that kind of interests me about upscaling, and this is a little bit of a stretch, but I wonder if it's going to cause demand to drop, because we are not in the middle of a demand side crisis for GPUs. It's a supply side crisis, right? But if the demand isn't there, then they're going to stay in stock. Does that maybe mean that Rubin does release next year? Because I don't think NVIDIA wants a stagnant GPU market. I don't remember who said this, but it was a real, maybe it was Linus or I don't remember. But it was like AMD can't stand to lose in the graphics card segment, right? So I think if demand is stagnant and there are no new GPUs that come out this generation, like if we're done, right? Because I think the 50, like if you watched last stream, and I have a link on my channel if you want to check out last week. I said the 5090 Ti wasn't going to happen, and I went on like a 30-minute rant about why it wasn't going to happen. I still don't think it's going to happen. And I think that if we get no new GPU releases this year and demand starts to stagnate, which it seems like it might be doing that. I want to do an update on the new market to see where the prices are right now, because I haven't checked it in about a month. But I really think that if demand is stagnant, you might see more people look to go buy Rubin if it releases on time, which would be on time for me. I would say CES next year. So that is really interesting. Another cool thing too is if you have the Intel Core Ultra series, I kind of want to see how those the iGPUs stack up with multi-frame gen. Like, could you buy like a 245K and use the iGPU and get like 1080p low 100 FPS gaming with multi-frame gen on? Like, that would be kind of incredible. And what does that do to like the laptop or like the mobile area, where people are looking more now, I think, than ever to mobile GPUs, into the mobile segment, because of how expensive it is to buy and build systems right now. Like, I have a PC that I have issues with right now, and I was like, oh God, is it the RAM? It wasn't the RAM, thankfully. And then the next thing I was like, oh God, is it the hard drive? And I don't think it's the hard drive either. I'm kind of at like either the CPU or the motherboard. So I'm going to try some more troubleshooting. But like, building right now is stressful. Really is. I'm helping a buddy build, and I was like, oh my God, these RAM prices. Because look, I'll be the first to admit, when you're a tech tuber and you're moving from part to part, you're doing reviews, or you're doing like GPU testing, or you're doing like flips, you're not necessarily looking to build the traditional way, because as a tech tuber, you just don't do that. And then you look at these prices and you're like, holy shit, basically. And you're like, dude, these prices are so bad. So it just makes you think, right? And I overall think that multi-frame gen and upscaling is good. I think that at this time, I think good software is more important than good hardware. I really believe that. And it's a kind of a shame to believe. Um, and I think we're gonna see in 2 or 3 years where everybody like multi-frame gen changes the game. Now, like I said, I hope it doesn't lead to stagnation, and I hope companies don't get lazy because everyone just goes multi-frame gen, multi-frame gen, multi-frame gen. But God forbid that Jensen was right and a 5070 can perform the same as a 4090 with multi-frame gen, and it looks good. Like, it has to look good, because if it gives you more frame, excuse me, if it gives you more frames and it looks like shit, then that doesn't count. But if Jensen is somehow right and a 5070, I'm gonna have to do a 5070 versus 4090 test. And if it comes close, God help us. Oh, when multi-frame gen releases, I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna look into it. Or we're gonna test it and we're gonna see. Um, Wireless user says, I'm still looking for DDR5 for a motherboard. I can't find anything viable. So I was looking at RAM prices. I think that if you're looking at 16 and 32 gig for DDR5, I think it's kind of stabilized a little bit. Now, obviously, 64 and 128, that's all stupid. Those prices are all dumb. But like, most people don't need that unless you're doing like AI stuff. And we don't talk about AI here on Cruitman Tech. There's a whole nother area for that. So we're not talking about it. But I honestly feel like DDR4, because like I have a buddy who's like, well, I want DDR5 for LMM. Like, he's like, I want 64 gigs. And I was like, look, he's gonna buy a 5080 with 16 gigs as his main rig. I was like, you only need to have double the amount of RAM as you have VRAM. So it's like 32 gigs is, while not good, it's technically fine. So like, I was kind of trying to point him into that direction. So yeah, I mean, look, it's something, the upscaling conversation, you have to kind of like tiptoe around it, because a lot of people feel passionately, and upscaling could definitely be abused for the worse. But I think right now, during the shortages, I think it's for the better. I really do. And I think that going forward this year, I think multi-frame generation for the 50 series is going to be a big deal. It's definitely unfortunate that it's not on the 40 series, but the fact that you can still get DLSS 4.5 and run it pretty normally, I think is a big deal. So yeah, that's really it on DLSS upscaling. And I know we all have divisive opinions. So wireless user 3133 says, so you think prices are going to stay for a while? So let me show you this. So let me show you a few things that I find really interesting. Let me share my screen. We're going to go to Micro Center, okay? So one of the things that people tend to do, right, is they tend to take the top end of the GPU marketplace, and they tend to go, like, they tend to complain, and they tend to say, well, like, this is why PC gaming is dead, right? And I don't think that's the right way to go, but that's what they do. So we're gonna go to the St. Davis. We're gonna share my screen, right? Let's go to screen share. Let's see. We're gonna do. I gotta figure out screen share. Share screen. Okay, so we're gonna share my screen, right? And we're gonna go to window. We're gonna go to my Micro Center. Okay, we're gonna go to this, and I'm gonna share this with you. So we're gonna add this to the stage. All right. So now I want you to look at the 50 series. All right. Look at the 5090s, and this is my local Micro Center, St. Davis. There are over 25 5090s at $3,500. Okay. There are two for 36 and then two for 32, right? So there's like, let's just say there's like 35 5090s in stock. Right now, nobody wants to pay 3,200. I would say the going market rate for a 3090 right now is about $3,000. Okay. So that's actually not that insane. I actually thought they would be way more. And they can still go up. Remember, we are literally not even at March yet. We're getting close, but we're not quite at March yet. Now, I want to show you the 5080. So the 3090 is in stock and it can be had. Now, it's expensive, but it's in stock. Okay. Now, let's look at the 5080 at Micro Center. So right now you can get one for $12.50. And then the rest of them are sitting at about 1500 plus. All right. $1,500 for a 5080 is borderline good. Now I look at a 5080 like a 4090. It's an unpopular opinion, but it's the take I choose. Still not the worst. So if you wanted to buy high-end gaming PC with a 5080, you could do it and not get totally annihilated considering the cost of where we're at, right? Alito says, I bought 32 gigs of DDR5 for 100 in 2022. I would be forced to build DDR4 if I had to buy today. Yeah, I get it. My 64 gig of RAM I bought in 2023. I paid $120 for it. Now it's like 900. So I get it. But now let's look at the 5070. We're not gonna look at the 50. We're not gonna look at the 5070 Ti because the prices are dumb. 5070 can still be had for like close to MSRP. So 580, there's over 25 of them in stock. All right. That's a good deal. So like the GPU market isn't that cooked right now. Right? Now let's check out the 5060 Ti 16 gig real quick. 5060 Ti 16 gig. All right, so that's about 500. All right, so that's gone up a little bit. That sucks. So like I definitely would not buy a 5060 Ti right now. I would just buy a 5070. There's no reason. Now let's look at the 9070 XT and see where that's at. Not XTR. I would like to see an XTR model. All right, so you can still get them for $700. So the Challenger is a good one, and I would pay $700 for a 9070 XT all day. I think that's a fantastic value, and I think you can't go wrong with it. So like the GPU market isn't. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's great, but I'm also not going to sit here and tell you it's miserable, right? Like if you wanted to like, and let's look at the low end, right? So say you're like, well, the 5060 Ti went up. So let's look at the 5060 and see what that cost. And then we're going to look at the Arc B580. So the 5060 is $350. Or no, the 5060 Ti 8 gig is $350. That's not bad, actually. And there's 7 in stock. Now it only has 8 gigs of VRAM, but that ain't bad at all. So you have the option for an 8 gig 5060 Ti, which is going to get multi-frame gen, which is great. And then let's look at the Intel Arc B580. Let's see if they're floating at 250. Whoops, I butchered that. Let's see what they're looking like. All right, so that's tough, right? Like I definitely think I'd buy a 5060 Ti 8 gig and spend like $100 more than the B580 for $330. But if $100 matters, you can still buy Intel. So there are definitely new options for every spectrum of the market. Now, obviously, this is Micro Center, and not everybody lives by a Micro Center. But like, let's go to Newegg. Here, let's go to Newegg. And let's look at how much an Arc B580 costs there. Shout out to Newegg. They are a new partner of the channel, and they've actually been a pleasure to work with so far. All right, so let's go to in stock and sold by Newegg. So $300 for the B580. That's pretty good. Let's go to the RTX 5060. 360. You know, I would honestly, for the VRAM, I can honestly say that I think I'd rather pay $300 for an Arc B580 than $360 for a 5060 8 gig. I can honestly say that. Let's see what a 5060 Ti 16 gig costs right now at Newegg. So like where anybody could buy, not just people who live by a Micro Center. $500. Yeah, I would definitely buy an Arc B580, save the $200. So like that's what I'm getting at, right? There are options for every price point. Let's look at the 5070 real quick. So like the GPU market really isn't that bad. All right, I mean, $650 isn't great, but it's really not the end of the world, honestly. So look, what I'm getting at is I think to answer your question, I think prices are probably going to stay like this for a little bit because I think demand is falling off. Now, obviously, prices are more than if you would have bought over the holidays, but they're not like crucifyingly a lot more. So, like, look, let's go for this, right? You could probably find 32 gigs of DDR5, right? For let's check if Micro Center has any bundles, right? All right, so you look at this bundle right here. You get a 5800X3D, a tough gaming motherboard, which is the B650E is a solid motherboard, and you get 32 gigs of VRAM, right? $600. That's really good. Like that's basically like close to pre-shortage prices, right? And if you're talking, you buy that and then you pair it with a 5070 that you paid MSRP for, or you pair it with um like a 9070 XT, you're like at $1,200, and then you just have to get your case, your power supply, and your cooler and your memory. You're really probably only spending like $250 to $300 more than before the shortages came. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's a good thing, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the sky is falling and the market is doomed. Now, I think that we're also probably at like an all-time low demand right now because nothing new came out. Um, we don't have tax refunds yet. So I think things could maybe get worse. I'm not necessarily sure that they will. But I don't necessarily think I don't know, it's tough. But I'm trying to be like positive. And what I'm trying to say is like if that few $100 was going to be the difference between you building and not building a PC, then you should get creative and probably check out the used market or just wait, which is totally a fair thing to do, or just use what you have, really. So it's really just kind of interesting that like maybe things aren't maybe things aren't quite as bad as we think, right? That's just kind of where I'm at. So, we've talked a lot about hardware. I'm kind of going through my notes now. What I do is I kind of take notes and look at certain things. All right, so here's one for prices, right? This one was kind of interesting. I thought it was a little overblown, this article. Tech reported this earlier this week, and they said that let me share my screen again. Share screen. Okay. Um, they said that gamers, hold on, add to stage. Gamers are ditching the Radeon RX 9000 series due to high prices. Now, they said this is in Japan. So let's just get that straight. That's a very, very small market segment. Um, and frankly, I think the prices in America, like a $700 9070 XT, I think you buy it. Like but it's interesting that we're starting to see pushback in other parts of the world, right? And people see these like AMD sees this, Nvidia sees this, these news stories, like, don't kid yourself. Everybody reads this stuff, right? The tech industry is small, so news spreads like wildfire, whether it should be or shouldn't be spread. Okay. So I think the perception might not necessarily be reality here in America, but if this does kind of hit this way in America, where like you see GPUs go 15 to 25% over MSRP and you see them stay on the shelves, like if we start to see every model with 25 plus in stock at say like a Micro Center, which is the only place that publishes their stock numbers, I think that would be really interesting. I would wonder if we're at this point where like GPUs need to go up a little bit in price because of the VRAM shortage, right? But then gamers are like, I'm just not buying. So I wonder if we see stocks start to build up. And I wonder if the sentiment goes like that. Like if people just don't buy, that would be incredibly interesting to me. And I think it would be good for gamers, obviously, because I think it could help force the price down. But we'll see. Like maybe the AIBs have a price they want to make, and maybe they're not willing to go anywhere under their margins. But I just thought this was interesting. And I know it's only in Japan, but news spreads like wildfire. And I would really be interested to see if we start seeing this in like Europe or like other smaller markets where we can kind of track sales. Because like honestly, in the US, it's basically impossible to track sales. So just something interesting to keep an eye out on. And obviously, news like this is probably a good thing for gamers. Like a lot of these like quote unquote negative news stories aren't really a bad thing for gamers. Let's see what else I got here. All right, I think this one is crazy. So, um, Sony shutting down Blue Point Games, right? So we're gonna move to game. Um, we're gonna move to games now. Like I like to talk about gaming and gaming stuff. So I want to talk about this, and then I'll kind of transition to what I'm playing, and I kind of want to know what you guys are playing, and definitely like share with me your opinions on this. So Sony shut down Blue Point Games. Now I'm not a big Souls guy. Like at this point in my life, I'm kind of like, all right, if I lose to a boss like 4 or 5 times, I just lower the difficulty. So I have 2 kids. I'm busy. I do YouTube. I try to do a lot of things. I just don't have time to kind of get into everything as much as I'd like to, right? So for me, I'm not like a big Souls guy, but it's kind of a big deal where like they're shutting down all these studios, and it's wild because like right now there is so many good games out. Like I was telling people on the stream last week that this is my favorite time to be a gamer right now. My absolute favorite time to be a gamer because I think we have so many good games. Like last week, right? Check this out. I thought this was pretty cool. One night I played Arc Raiders with my brother-in-law. Another night I played Helldivers with my cousin and some of my buddies, right? Another night I tried out that new MOBA, Deadlock. Another night I went back to Arc Raiders. And then I played single player where I fired up. I'm working on Titanfall 2 campaign and finishing up Mafia the Old Country. So like I played basically a different game every night, and it was incredible. Like there's so many good games coming out, and like the new Resident Evil's coming out. Like I just feel like every day there or every week there's a new release. We've got that really sweet game that looks like Death Stranding 2, like from Capcom. We've got Death Stranding 2 coming. And then you hear stories like this. So, like, while it's really good on the surface, you hear studios closing, companies laying off employees, and you're like, why are we still doing this? Like, Sony, why are you closing a really good studio? I'm not, you look, I'm not big. I don't have a lot of gaming contacts. I'm not huge into that space. I'm kind of like a casual observer. But why is Sony shutting down more game studios, especially game studios that are churning out good content? Like, Sony doesn't need to do this. The PlayStation 5 is selling like hotcakes. I mean, PS5's upscaling tech is great. Like, I hate to say it, but I might have to buy a PS6 Pro, in the future when it comes out because like upscaling technology is good. Like their upscaling software is good, and that depresses me to say because the PS5 is old and you shouldn't pay that much money for old hardware. Like, but they're still selling and they still are putting out so many good games. Like PlayStation State of Play was great. So why are you closing studios? Just really frustrating. I wanted to vent about that. Um, so I there wasn't that much. Like it was a slow news week. As far as fun things that I think I can share, so there was a lot of Lightning, MSI Lightning stuff coming out. Um, a few percentage higher in games, which kind of made me feel good. And it also kind of made me wonder like why more companies just don't put two 12-volt high powered on their PCBs, but that's a rant for another day. Oh, some fun things I did get in. I got some review samples in. You know that MSI power supply where it will shut down if you overheat, if you're messing with your 5090 or any of your 12-volt high powered. I got that in, and I'm gonna be doing a review on that in the coming weeks. It's not gonna release for a while, but it'll be pretty sweet to share with you guys. I'm trying to think of releases. There's a lot of new cases coming out soon, a lot of new motherboards, which I think a lot of these new motherboards, by the way, are pretty sweet. And 64 gig BIOS, it's about damn time. If only the RAM prices were to go down a little bit, just a little bit. Um, but yeah, like we're kind of in this weird quiet time, especially after a Computex where there was no big news announcements, and we're like wrapping up the Chinese New Year, so you're gonna see a flood of new products coming soon. I've got some pretty sweet PC mods coming out too, but it's just like this weird quiet time. So like, what are you guys gaming on? Like, what games are you guys playing? What are you guys doing? I know for me, I'm about to do the Arc Raiders Expedition. I don't know if you guys have really pushed Arc Raiders, but I love that game. I think it's an incredible game, and I could spend a whole stream talking about it. Um, I'm also doing a lot of single player games. I'm kind of going through my backlog now. Like I want to finish Persona 4, Persona 5 Royal. I think I want to beat Claire Expedition 33. I've never beat it. So I'm kind of doing that. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Linux, and I'm excited to share that with you guys. Long story short, I agree with Linus and Luke on Linux, and I think it's silly that people do like Linux challenges because like what I basically like I have most of the video recorded already, and what I basically said in it was like Linux challenges are stupid because for example, do you play a game with anti-cheat? Like all the time. Like, are you a big esports gamer? Counter Strike, Rainbow Six Siege, League of Legends, whatever, right? If you are, then you full stop can't use Linux. So, like, if you were to be like, I'm gonna do a Linux challenge, right? Why would you do a Linux challenge? You're just torturing yourself. So, like, full stop, why would you do it? Linux is terrible with editing. Like some of the editing softwares I use, Linux doesn't work with it. So I'm like, all right, I'm not using Linux as a daily driver. But I will tell you what, Linux from a living room PC where I like sit on my couch and game, and I just want everything to launch in big picture mode. And I'm kind of working on it where I can get everything to turn on with one button. You basically have a Steam machine. And Vulkan drivers, like I don't know if you saw my 9070 XT Linux review. Vulkan drivers work great. Now, sometimes it's annoying forcing FSR4 onto it's annoying forcing FSR4 onto some of these games, but it's working really well. And you can play a lot of games on Linux. And like my experience has kind of been like this. Like, okay, I don't know how to do this on Linux, so we'll Google it. I find an answer in 2 seconds, I do it, and it works. The only thing that I found answers for and it didn't work was getting FSR4 to work on anything that wasn't Cyberpunk. I forced it on Cyberpunk successfully, but I wasn't able to get it on other games. Um, Wireless user 3133 says, I've played Arc Raiders a lot and it's fun, but I'm garbage. It's all right, dude. Like, I'm not the best at it. I'm not bad at it, but I'm not the best. Like, there's so many factors that go into being good. Like, did you get ambushed? Do you have a PvP kit? Like, are you just looting? Do you not want to get more aggressive based lobbies? Like, when I'm just looting and I'm like doing Stella grinds and someone just shoots me in the back of the head, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna grab my ankles. You got it, buddy. You can just kill me, and I just move on because like I'm so far up in money, I don't care. He also, wireless user 3133 also said, I saw some guy say he ran a virtual system running Windows on Linux to play multiplayer games. Is that legit? I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. I don't think dual booting on Linux is worth it either, right? Like you either want to use Linux or you don't. And like going through all that work, like just use Windows. Just use Windows. Like I like Linux a lot better. Overall, I really do. It's lighter and it's intuitive and like you can customize and mess with it a lot more. I don't know it as well, so it's taking me longer to do stuff. But like think about how many times that we've had a borked Windows and I'm just like, all right, screw it. I'm just gonna format it. Like on my test benches, which I'm gonna be doing a video on, like me basically updating all my benches literally, right? If I'm having an issue, I just reformat it. I don't even try to troubleshoot it. I don't even try to do any of that. I just reformat it because Windows is a bitch to like try to diagnose a problem that's wrong because maybe you had something you installed that messed something up. Like it's the same as Linux. Just wipe it and start over. And being forced to use Windows 11 sucks. Like if you have like an older PC and you can't afford to build something new and your older PC can't use Windows 11, I hope you didn't play esports games because you're SOL. Like you want to go to Bazite at that point. Like Bazite is really, really good for lower end machines. So that's kind of like a sum up of my video. So everybody who's here right now, you don't need to watch my Linux video. Shout out to you guys. We're 45 minutes in. I really, really appreciate everybody coming. I started an hour late. For anybody who's jumping in late, I was playing some more Hammer 40,000. The first time I played in 2 years. So I kind of like pushed the stream back. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. And I definitely think I took a hit this week, but I don't care. I'm really glad you guys joined me. I think we're gonna push SNT, Saturday Night Tech. I think we're gonna run it at 11 every night. I think 11 is like a good starting point, kind of like the same as Saturday Night Live, which is kind of what I based it on. Wireless user says, yeah, that's why I waited to make the move. Not clear and easy work. I just wiped to fix problems. Absolutely. I tried the finals last week. Adiso says, it's an interesting twist on multiplayer shooters. So the finals, I played it in beta and it had a lot of promise, but for me, the finals in beta was like, oh, everything's destructible and this is cool. And then like everything being destructible kind of like lost its luster a little bit because like the modes were weird. Not a lot of people ended up playing it, which is a problem. So it's not like a bad game, but it's not like a great game either. And I think it needed kernel level anti-cheat, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, I think like I would love I would love to have Linux force companies like Riot to like make it work on Linux, but they don't, which is annoying because like I think the thing that's annoying about League and Linux is like Linux works on a potato, right? And League also works on a potato. Like I remember playing League right after I graduated college. I think League released in like so I'm gonna guess and then I'm gonna look it up, right? I think League released in like 2011. When did League of 2009? League of Legends came out in 2009. And before that, if you're a old person with a 21-year-old Steam account like me, you were rocking you were playing Defense of the Ancients in Warcraft 3. So like I mean, I guess you could still do that, right? You could still play Defense of the Ancients on Linux in Warcraft 3 theoretically if you wanted to. So yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of people get into Linux, but I definitely think like it's super clearly cut. Like, can you use Linux or can't you use Linux? So yeah. So moving on. Oh my god, wireless user 313 is like, I was 3 when it came out. Well, you were 3. All right. Now I'm getting kind of dating myself. So, it's a little bit slow, slow news week. I think I'm gonna go for at least an hour. I might go for a little longer. I it's just I kind of want to circle back to like multi-frame gen software and all that. Like I really don't understand AMD. And I think AMD is gonna screw themselves over, right? Like you see these stories coming out where people are already saying that they don't want to pay more money for an AMD GPU, which is not a good thing. You shouldn't have those stories out there. You don't see those stories on NVIDIA GPUs. You just don't. And look, the leak for FSR4 was bad, right? But then you find out that FSR4 can work on lower end GPUs. Like, think about how awesome the 6950 would be with FSR4 or the 6600. And yet AMD is not releasing an official patch with it. Like, AMD, take the win. Take the win. Like, I know you don't have multi-frame and allow multi-frame gen. Allow multi-frame gen, and then you put NVIDIA on the back foot because multi-frame gen really only works with the 50 series. And I think regular frame gen works with the 40 series, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But like AMD could take such a win and put NVIDIA back to third place. Nope, not dumb. They can't take, AMD can't take the win. FSR4 is still locked because it can't run on lower end GPUs. Yet they know it can run on it. Like they watch videos. Don't kid yourself. Why aren't you doing it, AMD? What are you doing? It's just, oh, it's so frustrating. Like, why, if I own a 6000 or a 6000 series GPU, why do I have to go find a YouTube tutorial and edit code to get FSR4 working on lower end GPUs? Just do what Intel did. Like with multi-frame gen, you literally just turn it on in the app and it works. Like, why does AMD hate themselves? Right? Like, like they're winning so hard in the CPU division. Why can't you put like a tiny ounce into your GPU division? You have the 9070 XT. You have the best Linux GPUs. Why can't you capitalize on that? Right? Like, all right, everybody watching, did you even know that Vulkan was the best driver for Linux? Did you know that? Because you probably didn't. You probably only hear about the bad news that AMD has. Like, AMD, you can't trust them for driver support. Like, I was talking to someone at Micro Center, an employee which will remain anonymous, and he was literally telling me that more people buy NVIDIA GPUs solely because they know that they'll get more driver support. And we don't even know if that, like, and they're talking based on, like the last few years, because NVIDIA actually released an update, a security update for Maxwell, the 10 series, like, or that's Pascal, right? Pascal. They literally released a GPU update that was a security update, but still. And then you hear AMD trying to kill support for RDNA 2. Like, come on, AMD. Why do you hate yourselves? Right? Like, why do you hate yourselves? You have a good product in RDNA 4. It's so good that RDNA 3 sucks now. Like, the 9070 XT has the same ray tracing capabilities as the 5070. That is amazing. Amazing. Path tracing on Vulkan is still amazingly great with FSR4 frame generation. Like, why aren't you taking advantage of this? Wireless user 3133 says, I've never had driver issues and I've had over 10 AMD GPUs. It's funny you say that. I had a 7900 XTX, right? I avoided the vapor chamber issue. I had a great overclockable GPU. It didn't get too hot. And then, like, right before when the 40 series released, I don't know what happened, but I had a dedicated rig with the 7900 XTX. I had so many driver issues, I sold it. Like, I paid $1,000 for it when it came out. I sold it year 3. I sold it for $750. So it was okay. I lost a little bit on it, but like, I had so many driver issues that I couldn't keep it. And I don't know if it was the GPU, because I ended up with a 7900 XTX blower that my buddy let me borrow. He's like a big data center guy, and he let me play with it for a while. I had no driver issues with it, nothing. So I don't know. And then I had NVIDIA driver issues this year. So, like, everybody's gonna have driver issues eventually, but I would really recommend that you don't let your driver issues like formulate your opinions for that company, because I've had more driver issues with NVIDIA than AMD, and I think right now, unfortunately, like, this is wild, but if I had to rank the 3 companies, I think NVIDIA is obviously number 1, and I think Intel and AMD are tied for 2. And the fact that Intel didn't even release anything this gen, and all they have is this and this. Now, I know we have Panther Lake, but that's not going to most gamers right now. Like, the fact that this is all we have is incredible. And that just shows you kind of how important software is. I don't know. Like, I hate to be like I hate to sound like a Team Blue fanboy. Wait, no. No, I think I'm actually okay being a Team Blue fanboy. And I don't really care if I'm a Team Green fanboy. But AMD really needs to want to make me a Team Red fanboy again. And I have so many good things to say about their company, but like, I just frustrating. It's just frustrating. So definitely out of topic. So if you guys want to ask questions, I'm totally down. I think I'm kind of torn on whether I want to buy Claire Obscure right now. Part of me is like, I'm kind of just gonna pivot to like what I'm thinking about for myself. Like, part of me wants to buy Clair Obscur now, but part of me is like, why don't I wait for it to go cheaper? I have to finish Mafia: The Old Country. I have to finish Persona 5 Royal. I have to finish Titanfall 2. I want to finish Final Fantasy Remake, the first one. I think I have the second one too. So, like, with all these games, I'm like, should I spend more money? It's only $35, but I'm like, I don't know. Speaking of Clair Obscur, right? Actually, one interesting thing, I was thinking about selling my Steam Deck. I have a Steam Deck with the 2 terabyte hard drive in it. It's an LCD, but part of me is like, what do I need the Steam Deck for anymore? Like, maybe to play in my room, but I think the BC250, which is more powerful than the Steam Deck, is like a PC that I could put in my room. And I'm kind of like, do I need my Steam Deck anymore? And if the prices of the Steam Decks are going up, I don't know. Like, it's just something interesting because I think I could get a decent amount of money for it because it does have a 2 terabyte in it. But then also, I'm like, well, there's no other handhelds that are affordable. I don't get handheld review samples. So I'm like, should I just keep my Steam Deck for like the 3 or 4 times I actually need it? Wireless user 3133 says, and definitely has a good future with their APUs. I want to try it. But I just got Black Myth Wukong and I got Requiem with a component I bought. Nice. I was gonna try to acquire a code for Requiem, but like I don't even think I'm gonna play it. So I might try to get a code just for testing. Because I think I want to do some gaming testing with it. So I might do that, but I don't know. We'll see. I kind of am trying to be careful with how I ask for codes, but I might try to get one, even though I don't like Resident Evil, just to do kind of game testing on it. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of good games coming out. As far as the AMD APUs, I hope that I will get a Strix Halo review sample for the Asus Tough 14 Gaming, the 2026 model, and I really want to play. I really want to play on the Strix Halo APU. I think the battery life is kind of impressive, and I kind of want to see what it does with that 14-inch form factor. Like, that might be the new Steam Deck, man. Like, because I always play with my Steam Deck plugged in, and I could just open that up, and I get a lot better quality of basically everything. I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, it costs way more than a Steam Deck, but a 2 terabyte drive isn't cheap anymore. So, just food for thought, just making me kind of think. You know, as gamers, we kind of end up thinking like, are you guys the kind of guys that end up with multiple gaming PCs too? Like, if you get like something cheap, like, are you the kind of guy that, like, I remember I went to a wedding and I brought my Steam Deck and I was playing Arc Raiders on it because it actually worked in the hotel Wi-Fi, which was impressive. I was like, man, this is pretty impressive that I can like bring a mouse and a keyboard and hook it up to a dock and use, even if the Steam Deck screen isn't the best, like, play Arc Raiders on hotel Wi-Fi. It's kind of crazy, right? Like, it makes me want to try to install Overwatch on Bazite. Like, go to a hotel, play some online Overwatch, you know? So yeah, it's just kind of funny. So anyway, we've gone for about an hour now. We've gone for about an hour. Wireless user 3133 says, "Yeah, I've got my dad and brother running my extra PCs." That's awesome. I gave a PC to my brother-in-law, and it's been great because I've been playing with him. He's gotten really into PC gaming. I've been playing with him a ton. I think we're gonna call it about an hour. I know I started late. I think next week I'm gonna try to start closer to 10:30. Like, I think I gotta hit that 10:30 start time. Maybe closer to 11, but I think we're gonna go for that 10:30 start time because I think that kind of hurt this one. But everybody who came on and watched, I really appreciate you hanging out with me. It was a little bit of a slow news stream, but this is like one of my favorite things to do every week. This is where I get to come hang out with like-minded people and just talk tech. So if you're listening to this after the fact, I really appreciate you guys listening to it. I really appreciate everybody who's came and hung out with me for this hour. It was a lot of fun. I think if we had more topics, I'd keep it going, but my voice is kind of running out. And frankly, there's not much to talk about right now. Hopefully, we'll get some fun stuff next week. I've got some great content coming next week for next week's Saturday Night Tech. For next week's content on the channel. And you're finally going to get a full shed tour, studio tour, the Crute studio. We're going to do a full tour. So that'll be coming out this week. So anyway, guys, make sure you hit that like, make sure that sub button. Thank you guys for hanging out. It was a lot of fun. I apologize I started an hour late, but for everybody who hung out with me, you guys are the best and you're incredibly valued members of the channel. So have a good weekend, everybody. Have a good rest of the night. And if you're a big hockey fan like me, watch the USA-Canada game tomorrow, 8 a.m. Don't miss out. And maybe we'll talk about that on the next stream. So that's it for Saturday Night Tech. Thank you for hanging out with me, guys. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.